All right, excellent. Well, let's move on to the meat of our meeting, which is we're going to have two speakers. So I'd like to introduce the first speaker. As I mentioned before, our new safety officer, Bob Hill. I think of Bob as a Renaissance man. Came from a Navy family. He is a pilot, has an IAR 823 that he flies. He's a formation instructor in that aircraft, has been at many clinics. Bob is an amazingly skilled modeler. If you go upstairs here by the cafeteria, you'll see some models with several models with his name on it. Amazing modeler. He also is a champion show dog, Shiba Inu. Did I say that breed right? He's got like a national champion, Shiba Inu, right?
Well,
Two.
sure.
Regional. Just take
Yes.
it. So
Sounds great.
There's not much that the guy can't do. So Bob will be talking to us today about 737s and military service. Thank you, Bob.
All right. So hello, everybody. Those of you that know me know that I don't like talking in front of large crowds, so I'll try to hopefully not bore you. Before we get started, going back to the safety officer thing, I'd like to just kind of read some prepared remarks that I had sent to Stoney a long time ago. I'll try to read these guys fast. I'll also put this in our upcoming newsletter as well. It's kind of a little introduction to myself. Greetings, CWB members. My name is Bob Hill, and I've been a member for over 25 years, serving in roles such as Squadron Webmaster, Operations Officer, Flight Lead, and Board Member. Now I'm taking on a new role as Squadron Safety Officer. While I chose a civilian career in IT due to a lack of 20/20 uncorrected eyesight, I could have been Maverick's best wingman, or he could have been mine. I did grow up deeply ingrained in military flying due to the fact that my father was a naval aviator. One of the things that stuck with me was the culture of safety and managing risk. What I hope to bring to the squadron during our monthly meetings and in the newsletter is that culture through stories and, quote, there but by the grace of God go I, examples. I'll strive to be a part evangelist, part teacher, and part comic, hopefully part comic. I look forward to speaking to all of you soon. So that was kind of a little introduction that I wrote up. Just real quick before we get going on the 737s, this is me before I shaved all my fur off. And this is our girl Cedar and our boy Cypress. They're both grand champions. She's been retired, and we're still trying to get to grand champion bronze. Is probably the next step. Good.
You gonna tell them what the
Next.
names actually are?
Yeah.
Huh?
Tell them about the names.
Oh, Cedar and go back. Cedar and Cypress. So we had a Shiba Inu previous to this called Willow, and we've always named our dogs kind of with an aviation theme. And because this breed is from Japan, I started looking through all the Allied names from World War II that we had given the Japanese aircraft. And she would not let me name one of our dogs Zero or Zeke or Betty or anything like that. Couldn't do it. So I started looking at the trainer list, and it's like, oh, there's Willow. Okay, well, that's cool. So I looked at the Willow. Oh, yeah, so we'll name that dog Willow. Well, when we got these two guys, there's Cedar and there's Cypress, and they're both biplane trainer aircraft, contemporary during the late 30s, all through World War II. We also, if we were to get a fourth one, it's probably going to be named Spruce. So, okay. This is me. It's the only time you can get me in a suit anymore. I look pretty goofy there. I don't know what that was all about, but that's Cypress. Okay. I mentioned that I grew up in naval aviation. This is my father, a painting that we did for him long time ago when he was a young JG living in Hawaii, flying a VP-28 with the P-2, which was one of his favorite aircraft. And this was his car that he had at the time. So he was quite the bachelor there in the mid to late 50s. Oh, he had a matching powerboat, yeah, that he would trailer along with this with the black and white. So, yeah. At the time, he was one of the youngest patrol plane commanders in the Navy. So, next. So this is my first flight. This is my mom back here looking like she's Jackie Onassis, or I guess at the time Jackie Kennedy. With her shades there. It's just kind of funny. And I don't know who this guy is, but he's got control of the electricity there. So I'm probably saying, get me off of this, I'm going to throw up. It's probably. So anyway, my first flight. Okay. Actually, this is really my first flight. I was a little baby, less than a year old. My father had been stationed or transferred to Hawaii again from North Island, California. And we flew from San Diego up to San Francisco to take the Lurline across to Hawaii. And my father just happened to be there with his camera and took a picture of it. So this is actually the first flight, my true first flight as a little baby, probably late November, early December of '63. Now you all know how old I am. Kind of interesting in the back, the Western Electra and the Fairchild in the back there. It's kind of cool. Okay. And even back then, I knew how important it was to have the right equipment for the job. Okay. And this is kind of us nowadays, flying with Ross on the other side and Dave in the lead. Okay. Okay, now that that's done, whew, all right. So what I'd like to talk to you about today are the military use of the 737. We're not going to cover the airliners at all, otherwise we'd be here for days. As you all know, the 737 is one of the most popular airliners ever built. It was only recently eclipsed as a popular aircraft by the A320 family, so the A318, 19, 20, and 21. It's hopeful that the 737 will eclipse that again, but with MAX deliveries kind of slowing and picking up and slowing, the A320 family continues to expand. So it's kind of a neck-and-neck race there. So we're going to be talking about the 737-200 up to the P-8 up to the MAX. Okay. So just some real quick facts. First flight was back in 1967. There are 5 distinct generations. There's the original, which I found out from a Boeing guy is also known as a Jurassic to match with the Classic, which came in as a 300, 400, 500. And that's a change in engine from the JT-8 to the first CFM56. Then the next generation, which is 600, 700, 800, 900 with the larger engine. And then the MAX 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is this humongously long thing with different landing gear, known as the MAX, and that's got the LEAP 1B engines. There's also the Boeing Business Jet, which was developed starting with the next gen or a MAX aircraft. Very plush interior. We'll cover that a little later. 737 uses the same basic fuselage cross section, and the nose is the 707, 720, and 727. And its main competitor, as I mentioned, is the Airbus A320. So this, the print's a little small. Of course, for me, I can read it, but you guys in the back might be a little small. This just kind of, other than including the MAX, it kind of shows the fuselage lengths. A lot of them are very similar. For instance, the 600 and the 500 are pretty darn close. And same thing with the 700, and I think the 300, 737, 300, the lengths are about the same. But of course, the wings are totally different, engines are totally different. But this is just kind of a layout as to starting with the original, the 100. Even the 200 is a little bit longer than the 100 is. Okay. So these are all the countries that have used the 737 military or governmental roles. What I'm going to try to do today is I won't talk about NASA and I won't talk about some of the other uses of the aircraft in kind of except for a couple of exclusions. We're going to cover just basically military and governmental. So these are all the countries. This is basically it. If we included civilian use on this, the whole thing would probably be green, because I mean even Greenland has their own airline, which Trump is interested in. Anyway, so anyway, these are all the countries that use the 737. Okay. So before we get going on the military side of things, Boeing had an interesting take on the future. At a time where McDonnell Douglas even had done this, I've got some other pictures of a DC-9 or a C-9 with the same configuration. There was some dream that maybe it could be used as a carrier onboard delivery aircraft. Now, when you look at this versus the size of like an Osprey or a C2, which was used as a COD, or a C1, where they would put this, I have no idea. I know I've seen some drawings, especially in the DC-9, of folding wings, but I don't think this one even progressed past just a fun drawing. You can see that it's got way bigger flaps than usual, and then it's got a little baby hook, which, knowing the backside of a 737, the hook would probably be several stories high. But anyway, okay. Okay, for the 737, there were 6 specific military contracts. or different types. Now, we're not talking about those that are just off the shelf, because those kind of are military contracts as well, but these are actual changes in airframe. The first one is the T-43 or the CT-43. It's known as the Gator for Navigator or the Flying Classroom. It was based on the 200 airframe, so an early classic aircraft. They were used as navigation trainers or as an executive transport. The CT-43 was converted in the early 90s. There was only one that was lost, very famously in Croatia back in 1996, and that was when we lost our Secretary of Commerce there. The third aircraft was converted as a radar test bed as the NT-43A. And that's kind of I've got a picture of this. It's an interesting looking aircraft. Okay. So this is the regular T-43. This is what they looked like when they were delivered. There was kind of an interim scheme, and then they finished up their service like this. There are no others other than the NT-43 that are still in service. Okay. This is the NT-43. It's got some interesting radar bulges on the front and the back for testing and whatnot. Okay. So the 2X9 Surveyor, there were 3 that were ordered by Indonesia in the early 80s, used mostly for maritime patrol and transport. They've got this thing called a SLAMR, which is side-looking airborne multi-mission radar. Remember that, there will be a test later. And it's also based on the original airframe. There's no armament whatsoever on these. The 737 really didn't have any kind of armament. There were no missiles that someone attached to it until you got to the P-8, which we'll see later. Okay. And this is the lovely Surveyor. They're not used anymore. They've been retired, but they have the radar up here and on the other side as well from Indonesia. Okay. So now we get to the United States. So our own, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force C-40A Bs and Cs, they're based on the 700 airframe with an 800 wing structure. So that's they're able to take more cargo, more strength in that wing box. Externally, they look almost identical from the wing standpoint. They were basically in a combi. It's kind of a 737-700C. So the combination passenger and cargoes, and it's got a large cargo door only on the C-40A. The Bs and Cs do not have that. C-40A is built by, or is used by the Navy and Marine Corps, as I mentioned before. There were 17 of those built. C-40B is an office in the sky for the Air Force. It's got sophisticated communications for senior officials. If something were to happen, the president probably could run things from that aircraft if they needed to. There's no cargo door, there's no official name for it, and there were only 4 of those built. C-40C is more of a general transport. It lacks a communication suite. There's, again, no cargo door, no name, and there were 7 of those that were built. Okay. So this is a C-40A Clipper, an early version, and I'll tell you why I say early a little bit later. Okay. And this is late. Now, if you compare the two, and there's a story at the end of this as to why this is, but you can see it's much more toned down. It doesn't say United States Navy. It doesn't have the stars and bars. It doesn't have any squadron identifiers. It just has the bureau number and the last 3 of the bureau number. Okay. So the Marines, for whatever reason, because they also go outside of the U.S., but for some reason they are able to put all of their regalia over everything. These were both aircraft that were bought off the shelf from existing airline stock. They bought 2 of them and they've converted them. They also have the cargo door as well. For those of you that are bureau number geeks, I don't know if anybody out there is, this bureau number is 170042, and if you know about bureau numbers, 17 is kind of the current where we are at as far as appropriations on the aircraft. The original, the first one was 170000, which is actually Fat Albert for the Blue Angels. Okay. Here's a picture of a C-40 with the cargo door open. They're pretty spacious in there, and they've got another picture that'll show the interior. They also come with their own internal air stairs, so that comes out, and the whole thing is pretty self-contained. Of course, they all just like the 737 have their own APU to power. Okay. So this is the interior of a C-40. It kind of shows, there's the cargo door here, but it also kind of shows pretty common stuff that you'd see on any airliner, Alaska, Southwest. They retain these. There's no way that I know of that they take these out. So it doesn't, it's a little bit limiting from a height standpoint. But I guess if they need something big, they would just use a different aircraft. Okay. So this is the Air Force C-40B. This is the color scheme that's going away. It's kind of reminiscent of the JFK era with Air Force One and everything, Air Force Two with the blue, but that's going away in favor of Trump's red, white, and blue and gold color scheme. And there have already been a couple that have been converted. They'll be converted to that new paint scheme as they go in for heavy maintenance. So that's a C-40B, and that's a C-40C. See the difference? Actually not. If you click to the next slide, this is the C-40C. They're much more toned down. This one happens to be from the New York Air National Guard. You got the little Minutemen in there. Again, basically the same aircraft with the exception of the communication suite. Same engine, same fuselage. Okay. So the VC-96, that was another variant. There were two of them that were built for the Brazilian Special Transport Group in the Air Force. They're no longer used, but this is kind of what they look like based on a 737-200 with an executive interior and convertible, but there was no cargo door. Okay. Okay, and everybody's favorite P-8A Poseidon, also the P-8I Neptune, which is what India calls it, and the Poseidon MRA-1, which is what the UK calls it. It's based on the 800 fuselage with 900 wings and 767-400 basically wingtips. Replaced the P-3 and the Atlantic and the Nimrod, among others. It's got a strengthened airframe really for hard low-level maneuvering, although that does use up a lot of gas down low. So what they're in the process of doing is they are working out a way that the aircraft is able to work with drones. They'll actually carry the drones in the bomb bay, release them. They can't obviously recover them. That would be too cool. Can't recover them, but the UAV, the drone will actually have magnetic anomaly detection gear on board it, MAD gear, since our P-8s do not. It's kind of odd. So the bomb bay is now after the wing. If you remember the P-3, it had to be in front of the wing. Now it's in the back of the wing. So they carry torpedoes, bombs, mines, drones, all kinds of good stuff that I'm not privy to. Two weapon stations pre-wing, or per wing, per wing outboard of the engines. And those are for harpoons and slammers and a bunch of other missiles they can carry. It was saying 6 total external hardpoints. I couldn't find the other 2, so I'm assuming they're in the fuselage somewhere. Kind of strange. I only know of the 2 and 2. And again, the aircraft, U.S. aircraft do not have MAD equipment. They figured that we didn't need it. However, the other countries did figure we need it. And the way that you can tell out on the ramp, if you're looking at them, is the little stinger is shorter on the naval aircraft that don't have it. And it's a little bit longer on those that do. It's just within like feet. And as they say here, new capabilities are being developed to carry MAD-capable drones for low level. Okay. So the users, the P-8A is in the Navy. It's 136 delivered. 1 was lost, if you remember that, in Kaneohe in Hawaii. 1 ran off the end of the runway from VP4, who's based up at Whidbey. 3 are still on order as of last year. There are 17 total fleet squadrons split between Whidbey and Jacksonville. The Indian P-8I, which was interestingly named the Neptune, which was the airplane that the Orion replaced. There are 12 delivered, 6 more on order. They are MAD equipped, and there's all internal Indian specialized equipment. And then the MRA-1, which is for the UK, that's 9 operational, and they're replacing the long retired Nimrods. They haven't had Nimrods for a number of years. Okay. Additional users, I'll just scan over these real quick. Australia, Canada, Germany, New Zealand, Norway, Singapore, South Korea. Okay. Again, real fine print for you guys in the back, sorry. So this is kind of an underside that shows, they got the bomb bay back here, explains what some of the antennas are, where the sonobuoys fall out of. Up here is a forward-looking infrared dome that's retractable. The P-3 had theirs directly in the nose and only picked those up with the P-3C but they were retrofitted to earlier models in the back. Here's a harpoony looking missile. You can see the 2 here and 2 here. And those, the stations for them are completely removable. So oftentimes you'll see them without those. They don't always put those on here. You see the raked wingtips. I think that's about it. Okay, next. I thought this was kind of a cool picture too. It's one of them being built over here in Renton, kind of at the final assembly. You can see all the antennas. This is the only, this and the one on the other side are the only crew windows. The rest of the aircraft is pretty slick, with the exception of the emergency. They are air-to-air refuelable, not by the Navy hose and drug, but by the Air Force boom. Yeah, basically boom up in here. Those of you that are modelers, if you care, all this part right up here is flat gray, not shiny. The rest of the airplane's shiny. Okay. All right, the wedge tail. There were quite a few of them that were out here on the ramp for a number of months, so I don't know if you had the chance to take a look at those at all. They're basically communications and control aircraft that's replacing the E3 and other aircraft like that. They're based on the 700 with the stronger 800 wings, but they don't have any winglets. So they're either straight wing tips or they're antennas, and we can look at the antennas. Its array is called a multi-role electronically scanned array, or MESA. And unlike the E2, which rotates, and the E3, which rotates, this array is fixed in place. There are 6 aircraft in Australia where they're known as wedge tails. Turkey has 4, they're known as Peace Eagles. And South Korea has 4 aircraft, they're known as Peace Eyes. The UK has 5 aircraft, which are 3 new and 2 that they're planning on converting from airliners, which is kind of interesting, just to save a little bit of money. And they'll be known as the wedge tail AAW1s. The Air Force was to get a version of the E7, but as you can see, that's on hold. You may have heard that in the news. Pete Hegseth put that on hold because they want to favor the E2D. It's kind of interesting. Space-based satellites as part of this whole Golden Dome thing. So they thought that the E7 was a little too limited and was easy to take out. But Congress decided, no, you're going to get it anyway. So additional funding last November was put in for this year to keep the program alive. And like I said, there are 2 aircraft that are still off and on test. Okay. So there were potential users. Saudi Arabia may still use them to replace their E3s, and Canada may also use those. But I think they're leaning more towards a Bombardier solution, a little smaller aircraft. Okay. So here's what the wedge tail looks like. Isn't that beautiful? So modified vertical fin. That's pretty much it as far as airframe, and the strakes down here keep it a little more stable. But it's got lots of neat little bumps and lumps up here that, and again, it's air-to-air refuelable. You can see the wingtips have a little bulgy little guy out here and on the end here, but no winglets. Yeah, thanks. Who said that? Thanks. Next. So here's a Turkish one, pretty much identical externally, a little bit different internal equipment, of course. Okay, next. And then this is what the E7A potentially could look like, just identical, just a different paint job, probably even the same color gray. Okay, all right, what you've all waited for, a gallery of some military 737s. And this is also where we get the audience participation. So you get to guess at to who is what. Okay? All right. Oh, no, you can't look at that. So this is a Mexican Air Force. They have used the 737 for a number of years. This is an 800 series with the split scimitar winglets. It's kind of cool. All of their 737s are painted in this kind of evil gray, but they're actually nice looking aircraft. Okay. Oh, no, you're not supposed to look. I should have blocked these out. So this is a Peruvian 737-500. They've had these again for a number of years, and they've always been kind of in this gray scheme for an anniversary, 50th anniversary of the Air Force, I think it was. They went ahead and colored these up a little bit, but usually they were just black, like there was a black flag. Okay. Here's a cool one. This isn't true military, it's government. It's the government of the Netherlands. And this is a 737 700, kind of a BBJ sort of, with the orange and the blue. It's kind of pretty. See, all these have the title on them, so you guys can't tell me what it is. Okay. Ah, okay. Here's one. It's an 800 series. Huh? It's Taiwan.
Taiwan. Who said Taiwan first? All right. You both
Oh,
get
there
it,
are
but I don't know.
prizes.
Who was
There are
first?
prizes.
Okay, he says he was first. You guys can fight over that later. All right.
So yeah, Taiwan has a number, not a lot of these, but they do have them. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting plane. It is currently the only military used MAX. And it's by the Australian Air Force. There's only one. Apparently the US government is looking at using MAXs as well, but they're still kind of being developed. So this is the first true one. It replaced, I think, their 757s that they used to have. So again, a lot of communications equipment for that big continent. Okay. Okay. Some of you should recognize this logo. Justin?
I refuse to comment on this.
I know nothing. So People's Liberation Army, Air Force, from China. Again, China has always been a big Boeing customer. It's kind of funny. And this is one of their modern 800 series for running party members around the country and elsewhere. Okay.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to stay incognito, I think, although you could probably tell from them.
Kazakhstan?
Yes, who said that?
Holy
Hey, very
smokes.
good.
Very nice.
So it's a 700 taken off out of somewhere in Kazakhstan. Okay. Our friends. So the Republic of Iran, I don't think they're still using that. Maybe it got blown up, I don't know. I don't think they're still using this 200 series, but it was set up for gravel strip operation. You can see the gravel here, and also this has all been built up. So this whole thing, notice the difference in the doors. This whole thing would retract up in and make a nice little fairing. But it looks weird to see it hanging down there. At first, when I first saw that picture, like, what the heck is that? Oh, it's one of those, because I see it on a little screen. Okay. Why don't you go back? Can you go back? I guess I should mention that the disclaimer here is all these photographs are kind of pulled off the internet. So none of these are actually mine, so that's my disclaimer. Okay.
RAF.
Thailand, yep.
Only
So this
one
is a 737-400. I believe this one is still in service, although they have moved on and they do have 800 series and the more modern aircraft. But kind of a nice, colorful paint scheme. Okay. And then this one they just received. It's an 800 series off to Poland for their people. Okay. All these have the names on the title. I'm going to have to change that. So Chilean Air Force, again, very smart, almost US-like, blue and gold. These, I think, have been repainted as well to be more a tactical gray, which seems like everyone's going over for that. Okay. And then here's a Malaysia 737-700. Okay, so some honorable mention. I mentioned I wasn't going to really talk about those that weren't military, but there are some that I just have to kind of bring out. So one of them is the 600 series. They are right now the largest operator of the 737-600 since WestJet got rid of all theirs. I think some went to Janet. And if you wonder what Janet stands for, it's just another non-existent terminal. We don't fly there. Perform flights to Palmdale, Groom Lake, Area 51, and Las Vegas. For a while, I don't know if they're still doing that, but for a while they were doing some of the prisoner flights for like FBI, CIA, and they were. If you go to Las Vegas at all, there's a section of the airport that they're just all there. Con Air, yeah, exactly. That's what Robin had said. Yeah, Con Air. Yep, exactly. Okay.
Flying C-123s anymore?
No, at least not in this country. So that's what they're very nondescript, but everyone knows what they are. Just the kind of little red sheet line. You can see how short the 600 series is. They don't need a lot of capacity. No cargo capacity, no door. And this was actually one of the least popular new generation or next generation aircraft for the airlines was the 600. 700 didn't cost that much more and carried a lot more. Okay. Okay, the next one, I have to confess, don't beat up on me, I called it this. Gnome's Folly. So there's a 737 MAX 8 BBJ that the Department of Homeland Security is trying to purchase. It's very luxurious inside. It's got a bed, it's got a galley, it's got, whole thing is like first class. But she was kind of saying, well, we're going to use that for deportation flights. Yeah. Yep. It is, however, a very smart looking airplane. I will say that. So this is kind of Trump's paint job. It kind of looks like the old Trump Airlines, you know, when he got rid of the T, he put the flag back there. And so it's, you know, a dark navy blue and then gold and red. But it's kind of funny because if you look closely, you can see inside how, you know, it's pretty, just from here you can kind of tell it's got, is that the bed? You know, kind of thing. But yeah, it's a smart looking airplane. So who knows if they're going to keep it or continue, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. And then last but not least is kind of an exciting thing. This year, for the 250th celebration of our founding of the nation, Boeing, along with a bunch of other organizations, has gotten together a 737-700 that they're going to be flying a lot of our important founding documents around the nation. Hopefully they don't crash around the nation because they're all original. The date here is, as you can see, it's July 30th through kind of the middle of August. And that will be the final tour stop. The airplane will sit probably out here. I don't know if there'll be tours or whatnot, but MOHI will have all the documents if you want to see that. Apparently it's free, you just have to sign up for a time and you get to get in. Good. And that's what that one looks like. Just kind of a nice and a lot of Boeing logos and stuff on it. And that's, like I said, a 700. It's an older BBJ that I guess had been sitting for a while, so they refurbished it. Okay. Okay, so finally, the story of They're Always After Me, Lucky Charms. So this is a patch that was made to honor an event that happened back in 2003. So remember this, remember these, the bandages, and remember 833. Okay? So 833 was a C-48 Clipper. At the time of the incident, which I'll get into, 833 was the Navy's fifth C-40. It was brand spanking new. In fact, it was on its first flight, basically its first deployment after being introduced to the fleet. The event occurred during the build-up to Iraqi freedom in 2003. Shannon, Ireland was a stopping off point where they would fly the aircraft across to the Middle East, but they would stop in Shannon overnight, have a good Guinness, have some dinner, enjoy some things. So this airplane was there doing just that. The crew was there. On January 29th of 2003, one Mary Kelly came and attacked the aircraft with an axe. At the time, the airplane was just sitting out on the ramp. It was completely marked up as a Navy airplane. They had been protesting for a while, and I've got some pictures of that. And they knew what was going on with that. This airplane is going to go and kill, Iraqis. Okay, great. So she attacked the airplane, hitting the nose gear with an axe. It's lucky she wasn't killed. The pressure that those things are on, if that had gone off and she would have been, who knows, dead. The damage, the estimate for the aircraft was about $1 million that she did on that thing. So as I said, it was repaired, cleared for a one-time ferry back to the US. But while it was sitting in the hangar, waiting the night before it was going to leave the next day, 5 people, known as the pit stop plowshares, because this was the pit stop of death, you see at Shannon, it was a pit stop of death, decided they would make sure this airplane never flew again. So they attacked it on February 2nd, the night of February 2nd, 5 men, and this time they did a little more damage. It was about 2.2 million. So approximately 3.2 million to get this airplane repaired. So it was finally repaired with additional security. It still flies to this day. The after the incident, the Navy and military said, we're not stopping at Shannon anymore. We're not going to do that. And that was quite a loss to the local economy, so they instituted better security, and I think they're now still, I think they did return under much heavier security. I guess back then it was just sort of like you walk out on the ramp kind of thing, you know. And obviously walk into the hangar too, so. These two things are quotes that I took from, there's an online, I think it's called Citizen Sailor, of the complete description of how this whole event and how the patch came to be. I'd love to find one of these patches. So it says here, at the second time the aircraft was damaged, one of the squadron maintenance personnel asked a rhetorical question. Why do they keep going back at this aircraft for more? Remember, it was attacked twice. And without missing a beat, one of the squadron chiefs responded, "They're always after me, Lucky Charms," in a silly Irish accent like the cartoon serial character Lucky Leprechaun. So you might be asking now what happened to the folks who damaged the aircraft. Shockingly, not much. After 3 trials, Mary Kelly was found guilty and given a 4-year but suspended sentence of 2 years in prison. I don't think she ever served a day. And the Pitstop Plowshares were never convicted after 3 separate trials. Okay. So here's some of them. Actually, it looks like a famous guy, doesn't it? Anyway, these are some of the protesters. Okay. Okay, now for the damage. The aircraft was assigned to VR-59, which is a Ready Reserve Navy squadron based out of Dallas. It was the city of Dallas. However, I think that had changed because it's also known as the Spirit of the Pentagon. And you can see this just basically shows where the damage had been done. This, I think, has already been repaired. Okay, go ahead. Here it is. They actually took the entire fuselage skin off to do the repairs. So while she only did 1 million, of course, the other people did 2.2 million, which, you know, with axes and picks and all kinds of good stuff. Okay. So these are pictures, I believe, in Wichita of Boeing going through and repairing it. And you can see how much they had to take apart the aircraft. This is the cargo door opened up. And so you can see the whole lower half of the fuselage is gone. Okay. Just kind of a close-up picture. All the Clicos, yay! And here's some more, a little close-up. They actually had to get in where the wing structure was as well. Okay. All right, so note to modelers. So this is how the aircraft looked right about the time. This is VR-59 again. It's the Spirit of the Pentagon. This is how it looked without winglets. All of the United States Navy, you could tell what squadron it was from based on the Modex in the back. There's a bureau number, everything's fine. After this event, the Navy put out an edict that said, you gotta make this thing look civilian. We don't want people coming out to the ramp and going, oh, Navy, yay, let's get it. So it was changed. 833 now looks just like this. So about the same time that they conveniently brought all the aircraft in to put in winglets, they also got rid of all of the squadron markings. Now, I have seen some aircraft, VR-57 down in San Diego is one that actually does still have the logo here and will have a city. They're just like the C9s that they've replaced. They all have names for the aircraft, Spirit of whatever, or City of whatever. But this is kind of, they went drab. That's why it's so surprising that the Marines were able to keep their titles and everything. And I'm pretty sure they fly outside of the US, but maybe only to Japan or something, I don't know. Okay. That's it. Any questions? Yes? Yeah, huh? Who are you? What's your name?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's just a love of airplanes, love of aircraft. Like Bob had mentioned, I do the models here at the Museum of Flight. So there's a lot of research in this, and I've just always been interested in it. You know, when I was a little kid, we had libraries, and and I would always go to the library and look up, you know, the latest Janes, you know, all that stuff for the various airplanes, and just kept doing that all my life, and with encouragement from my father as well. So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can make money off of it. I'm in good shape. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Really nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome presentation.